So here is the fourth set of notes for this particular section, and it's on irregular figures. And irregular figures just means things that don't have a set formula to find the area and perimeter. Usually we have to break this down into smaller shapes. And this is much more practical to use. If you think about most of the homes or most of the rooms in your house at home, a lot of them are going to be a shape like you see here. It's not going to be a perfect rectangle. Usually bedrooms are sometimes perfect rectangles, but if you think about your living room or your kitchen, things like that, they're probably not perfect rectangles. So knowing how to do this has some really great practical applications. So to find the perimeter, remember perimeter is just adding up all the sides. So if you look, we have 6 sides here to find. So we already know 38 and 16. We're missing this side here. We know 25, we know 28, and we're missing this big side over here. So to get this big side, that whole side there is going to be equal to 25 plus 16. So 25 plus 16 gives us a total of 41 for this side. And then to find this little side here, okay, if we look, the whole thing is 38, and this piece is 28. So this time we're going to subtract. So if we take 38 minus 28, we get that this little side here is 10. So now, to find the perimeter, I'm just going to add up all 6 of those sides. So 38 plus 16 plus 10 plus 25 plus 28 plus 41. And that whole perimeter will equal 158 millimeters. So perimeter is just adding up all the sides. Just make sure you have all the sides before you go to add them up. Now, the area becomes a little bit tricky. Okay, there's a few different ways to do this. I can break it down into these 2 rectangles here, where I have this one, and this is number 2, and I could find the area of those 2 rectangles, and then I could add up those 2 areas. I could find, instead of doing that, I could find the area of the entire rectangle. I could find the area of the entire thing, and then the area of this little one in here, and then I could subtract them, because I don't want that little piece in there. So I could find the area of the entire thing and then subtract that away. So that's 2 different ways to do this. Or the third way, the way that I'm going to do it, is I could make them into these 2 rectangles, this one and this one, the top and the bottom. All 3 ways will get you the same answer. So it doesn't matter at all which way you do. So the area of number 1, my top rectangle here, length is 38, width is 16. So 38 times 16 gives me 608 for that area. Then I'm going to find the area of number 2, the bottom rectangle here, and that's going to be 28 by 25. And that area is 700. So now when I add them together, I get 1,308. And that's my area. Now when you're breaking these up, really pay attention to the side lengths. Like I know this whole side is 41, but I'm not going to use that 41 at all because 1 is only this much, it's only 16, and 2 is only this much, it's only 25. So you really have to pay attention to what the length and the width of the rectangle that you're looking at actually is. So now for this next one, again, it looks like a rectangle with this little piece cut out of it here. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is fill in all the sides. So I see there's some markings here. So if this one has 3, that means it's the same as this one that also has 3. So that's also 18 inches. And then I see here that this one has 2 markings, so it's the same as that one that has 2 markings. So that one's 4 inches. And then it looks like the only piece I'm missing is this little piece up here. That one's the only side I don't have. So to get that one, I would have to take 42, which is this whole side. I'll take 42 and I'm going to subtract 22 and subtract 14 to get that this little tiny piece up here is only 6 inches. So again, to get that, I took 42, which was the whole bottom, minus the 22 minus the 14 to give me 6. So the whole bottom, and then I subtracted this piece away, so that's that much of it, and then I subtracted that piece away, which is that much of it, which just leaves me with a little piece that's 6 inches. Okay? Now I can find the perimeter. So again, perimeter, I'm just going to add up all the sides, and I'm going to make sure I don't miss any, so I'm just going to go the whole way around. So I'm going to start with 18 over here on the left, plus 22, plus 4, plus 14, plus 4, plus 6, plus 18, plus 42. And I've gone the whole way around, and usually I count to make sure I didn't miss any. So I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides, so that's good. So when I add them all up, I get 128, and that is in inches. All right. So now, to find area, again, there's a bunch of different ways that you could do this. You could break it up this way, and you could say, well, I have 1 rectangle, 2 rectangles, 3 rectangles. Or, instead of doing that, you could break it up this way and say I have 1, 2, 3 rectangles. You could do it that way and find the area of all 3. Or and this is the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to find the area of the whole thing. And then I'm just going to subtract that little piece away. Okay? I guess I should have numbered the opposite way, but I'm going to find the area of the whole thing. So the area of the entire thing that area is going to be 42 times 18, which is 756. And then the area of that little piece up there, number 1, that's just going to be 4 times 14, which is 56. And then I'm just going to subtract, which gives me 700. Okay? And again, if you had done it the other 2 ways that I showed you, if you had 3 rectangles, when you add all 3 of those up, you should get 700. Or if you did this little one and that little one and this big one down here, you should still get 700 inches squared. So again, no matter how you do these, you should be getting the same answers that I am. Okay, this next one's a little tricky because I see I have a half circle happening up there. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is fill in the sides that I know. So I see this one has 2 marks and 2 marks, so this is also 32 centimeters. And this side has 1 mark and 1 mark, so this is also 84 centimeters. Now, one other thing I want to write down is that the diameter of this circle is 32. So that means my radius is going to be half that. So that's going to be 16 centimeters for my radius. And I'm going to need that if you remember your formulas. And if you don't, just pull out the note sheets. It has all the formulas on there because you will be given those on the test. But you can see that both the area formula and the circumference formula both use the radius, so that's why I found that. So this time I'm actually going to start with the area, because the area is a little bit easier to find. So I have two areas here. I have this half circle up here, and I have my rectangle down there. So the area of number 1, it's going to be pi r squared, because that's the formula for a circle. So pi times 16 squared is going to give me about 804. 804.2477, and so on. Now, I only want half of that, because it's a semicircle, so I'm going to divide it in half, which gives me that piece of the area to be about 402.1238. So that's just the area for number 1, just that semicircle. The area for number 2 is much simpler. It's just a rectangle, so it'll be 32 times 84, which is 2,688. And then I'm going to add those together. So my total area ends up being 3,090.1. And this is in centimeters, so it's centimeters squared. Okay? So the area of this semicircle, up here you find the area of the whole circle like we did, pi r squared, find the area of the whole thing, and then just don't forget to cut it in half, divide by 2 to get half that area. And then you add it to the rectangle, which gives you the total. Now, like I said, the circumference is a little bit more tricky, well, the perimeter, because it includes the circumference. So first you want to think about all the outside of this. So I'm just going to trace it here. So I have this side, so we know that's 84, plus the bottom, which is 32, plus this side, which is 84. And now we have to add this. So that's half the circumference. So we're going to do this almost the same way as we did the semicircle area. My circumference formula is 2 pi times my radius, 2 pi r, which is 16. But again, I want to cut that in half, because it's only half of the outside edge. So it's half the circumference. So you have your circumference formula here, 2 pi r, that would give you the whole circle, but I only want half of it, so I'm dividing it in half. And when you plug all of that into your calculator, you get that it's 250.3. Oops. There we go. Equals 250.3. So if you only want half of that, you'd cut your area formula in half, and you would cut your circumference formula in half. All right, last one. So when we're finding perimeter here, we actually don't have any extra sides to find. All 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 5 sides are already found for us, so we can just add them up when we do perimeter. 2.4 plus 4 plus 12 plus 6.1 plus 15.5 gives us our perimeter of 40. 40 yards. Simple enough. Now my area, this one's a little bit tricky to break up, okay? I can see if I bring this straight down, I have a triangle and a rectangle. That's really the easiest thing to do. Now I've had some students in the past that would also cut this top off and make that a third rectangle if you want to. That's fine. It's not wrong. You'll still get the right answer. But I try to do the least amount of figures as possible. So now that I have this, I need to figure out this bottom. I know that this side is 2.4. because that's going to be the same as the top here. And then this side over here, when I subtract, gives me 3.7. So I just took 6.1 minus 2.4, and that gave me 3.7 for that side. And now I also need this side here, because when I plug into my area formula for a triangle, I need the base and the height. So to get this side, which is going to be 11.5, I took 15.5 and just subtracted 4. So 15.5 is this whole side. I just subtract 4, and that gives me the 11.5 for that side. So the area of the triangle, which I've labeled number 1, is going to be 1/2 base, which is 3.7, times height, which is 11.5. And that area is 21.275. And then the area of number 2 is just the rectangle, which is 15.5 times 2.4, which is 37.2. And then we're going to add them together, which gives me 58.475, which we're going to round to 58.5. Everything here at the very end you can round to 1 decimal place. Okay, so when you're finding the area or perimeter of irregular figures, the first thing you should do is get all the outside edge, if you don't have it already, to add all those up to find perimeter. And then for area, break them down into smaller pieces to make it easier to find the little pieces. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to watch this video again, or you can look at the completed notes, or you can ask me questions if you need to.